Number 10. Earth 99. This Batman hails from the Arrowverse and is found by Kara aka Supergirl and Kate Kane aka Batwoman in his reality of Earth 99. The Arrowverse Earth 99 anyways. He began killing off villains at one point after finally having enough, keeping trophies of them after they each had been finally defeated. This put the Bruce Wayne of this world at odds with Superman. The two fought, and while Batman managed to win, he was forced to rely on an exosuit after in order to move and get around. When Kate and Kara attempted to recruit him to face the Anti-Monitor during the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, he basically refused, telling them that the multiverse is basically not worth saving. He attempts to kill Kara after learning she is also a Kryptonian like Clark was, and is accidentally killed by Kate after his exosuit is broken during the scuffle, electrocuting him to death, because I'm pretty sure his exosuit was like right into his spine. I guess it's like an exoskeleton, if you will. Still, even though he died, this Batman successfully killed all of his enemies and managed to take out Supes too, so I feel like he still gets to qualify. Number 9. Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns version of Batman as written by Frank Miller is pretty frightening and is also a little bit older. But just cause he's an older Batman forced to come out of retirement doesn't mean he can't hold his own against the likes of even someone as souped up when it comes to superpowers as Superman. While this Batman might not have any superpowers of his own to tackle his old pal Clark Kent, he proves that he doesn't really need them at all, and that one of the best and most capable versions of Batman out there can still even face godlike beings like Kal-El with just his wits, his determination, and his gadgets and equipment. And friends, before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, head on over to Facebook to support us over there too, because the support over there helps to support us here and it helps us to just do all the things. Confetti. Number 8. The Bruce. The Bruce is a character that hails from the Elseworlds story Batman I Joker. Well, okay, it isn't like an Elseworlds comic, but it exists outside the continuity of any other main DC universes, so I'm just gonna refer to it as an Elseworlds. The Bruce is actually just a man who has had his appearance altered to resemble Batman. He rules over Gotham, and later his power is transferred to a citizen who is made to resemble the Joker and face the Bruce in a ritualistic annual event known as The Hunt. The Bruce is just a man in this universe and is defeated and replaced, but the power comes from the symbol that he represents. In this dystopian future, the people of Gotham worship whoever holds the title of the Bruce, like a god. There is even a church of Batman dedicated to his glory and his worship. While this isn't necessarily one of the hardest hitting alternatives out there, symbols are very powerful and can't be defeated as easily as a person, as we see in I Joker. Even when the person who represents the Bruce is defeated, he is simply replaced by the civilian that defeated him, who goes from playing the role of the Joker to being declared Gotham's new The Bruce, and worshipped as such.
Number 7. Red Robin from Kingdom Come. In the Kingdom Come story, Superman and the other Justice League members are forced out of retirement to combat a new, dangerous generation of heroes. This future version of Richard Grayson actually became the first ever Red Robin in his middle age, but not as a sidekick to Batman. Instead, he was part of Superman's Justice League. He played a similar role to Batman as part of this league, being like a stealthy hand-to-hand combatant. This version of Grayson also has a daughter with Starfire from the Teen Titans named Mari Grayson, who goes by the hero name Nightstar. Kingdom Come is considered one of the best graphic novels of all time, and I'm glad Richard is a part of it, especially since it brought us the awesome Red Robin costume. Number 6. Cute Batman. I'm sorry I call him Cute Batman, but honestly, look at him, he's kind of adorable. On Earth 42, all the superheroes appear to be these little kid-like versions of their normal counterparts. Here, Dick Grayson has gone on to take up the Batman mantle after this world's Bruce Wayne was killed by a villain from an alternate reality called Super Doom. Now, Dick acquired the Multiversity Guidebook, which detailed DC's current 52 universes, and using it, he teamed up with various Batman and helped to bring the heroes of the multiverse together. All the little heroes of this world eventually discovered they were actually androids under the control of the Empty Hand in order to spy on the House of Heroes. Still adorable though. Just saying. Number 5. Robin on regular Earth 2. Now, this Earth 2 is the one where all the Golden Age heroes of DC Comics are situated. In the Golden Age timeline, his history is the same as the original because technically, he is the original. right? Where things change is what would have been when he reached adulthood. In the diverging timeline of Earth 2, Dick Grayson actually remains the only Robin for his whole career. He grows up keeping the title and actually goes to school to become a lawyer. He takes up the Batman mantle once and comes into conflict with the Joker, but that makes him retire from the Batman name, and he continues on performing as the senior partner of the new dynamic duo, which consisted of himself as Robin and Bruce Wayne's daughter Helena as Huntress. And the two took part in the battle of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they unfortunately passed away. Number 4. Nightwing from the New Order. In the year 2028, all-out war between heroes and villains had broke out in the streets of Metropolis. There was countless deaths and destruction caused by the conflict for days, but after Batman passed away in the conflict, Nightwing activated a device in the war-torn streets of Metropolis that shut off or dampened the superpowers of most of the world, believing it was the best cause of action to save humanity from the dangers of superpowered population. Now after this, Dick began a relationship with Starfire from the Teen Titans, and together they had a son named Jake. As time went on, Starfire progressively fell out of love with Dick and resented his cause. One day, after Dick had chosen to lead the New Crusaders division to hunt metahumans, Starfire left Dick without saying a word, forcing him to raise their son alone in Wayne Manor. It turns out Jake is actually a metahuman with superpowers, and Nightwing now has to go against everything he previously stood for to save his son from the world that he actually created.
Number 3. Owlman. Owlman is an alternate version of Batman who is, well, pretty evil, but not a direct alternate. Instead of being Bruce Wayne, he is Thomas Wayne Jr., the older brother to Bruce in his reality. He hails from Earth 3, the same universe that belongs to the Crime Syndicate, which of course he's also a part of. The Crime Syndicate is basically like an alternate evil version of the Justice League, and of course Owlman is like their version of Batman. Thomas actually killed his Earth's Bruce Wayne after his younger brother was reluctant to join him and kind of taken out their parents, Thomas and Martha. Thomas Jr. believed that this was necessary as their parents were, in his opinion, squandering the family fortune. Thomas would take up the mantle of Owlman instead of Batman, and like his Prime Earth counterpart, is an extremely skilled individual and highly experienced fighter. Thomas also happens to be a genius as well, which often gives him an edge against his opponents. Number 2. Batman Who Laughs. As much as I want to give someone like Batman Who Laughs my top spot on this list, he's kinda dead right now. At least he was seemingly dead and defeated after the events of Death Metal. Still, Batman Who Laughs made for a powerful enemy and a powerful alternate. He is basically the combination of Joker and Batman in one entity. Hailing from the also now seemingly gone dark multiverse, Batman Who Laughs was once just Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, in his reality of Earth -22. All the negative Earths are the dark multiverse Earths. After Joker learns that he is sick and will soon die, he decides to push Batman as far as he possibly can, which prompts Batman to, of course, snap. Literally, he snaps Joker's neck. And Joker's spine, however, is a little bit of Joker venom, which ekes out with his final breath, or his final exhale if you would prefer. And this Joker venom is then inhaled by Batman, who is basically corrupted by it, and then we get Batman Who Laughs. Number 1. Batmite. Weirdly enough, despite being completely ridiculous, Batmite actually might be one of the most powerful alternate versions of Batman of all time. This mischievous imp from the 5th dimension is to Batman what Mr. Mxyzptlk is to Superman. The imp actually looks up to Batman, idolizing him, which is why he dresses like him and adopts a similar name to the hero. However, Batmite, as Batman's number 1 fan, can also be super annoying, often acting as a foil or outright enemy to the hero, as he often likes to manipulate the fabric of reality to create scenarios where he can kind of watch Batman do his thing. This means that he usually gets in the way of Batman's everyday heroics, so he causes a lot of problems for the hero, which of course tends to drive Bruce crazy. It's also been implied before that Batmite isn't real, but only exists as a hallucination for Batman, representing his rational mind. I think that was actually a Grant Morrison story, so that is a possibility. But for the most part, he is depicted as an actual tangible character that just really loves Batman and is way too powerful.
Number 10. Distant Fires. In the world of the one-shot comic Superman Distant Fires, nuclear war has thrown the world into Armageddon, with the resulting radiation actually robbing the superheroes of their powers. The Billy Batson of the story is actually still able to practice transforming into Shazam, but this only works for short periods of time, and each time it happens, it actually damages the Earth. When Superman turns out alive, Billy is a little less than thrilled, as Before the war, he was always playing second fiddle to the Super Boy Scout. His feelings of resentment intensified to a new level though when Clark Kent and Wonder Woman fall in love, as Billy had the hots for her. This drives him to the dark side, and he joins the side of the evil mutants, even taking pleasure in killing Wonder Woman. This enrages Superman, and the two battle on top of a volcano. After his own power betrays him, Shazam is struck down by his own lightning bolt, and Superman throws him in the volcano. Nasty way to go. Number 9. Injustice Shazam. In the Injustice storyline, young Billy Batson is somewhat persuaded and bullied to be part of Superman's new regime. After several not so great decisions from Superman, including his killing of Lex Luthor that Billy aided in, Shazam turns against Superman when he decides to plan to destroy Metropolis and Gotham, as well as invade the duplicate dimension as revenge for interfering in his plans. He stands up to the super dictator, but when he mentions Lois's name, Superman goes off the handle, grabbing Shazam by the throat, freezing his mouth shut, and burning his brain through his eyes with his heat vision. Yikes! His death led the Flash and Green Lanterns to join Batman's side at least. Number 8. Just imagine Shazam was named Robert Rogers. And instead of turning into a handsome black-haired hunk, when Rogers yelled Shazam, he turned into a big pink demon. He gets a magical power boost, demon wings, super strength and durability, and a lovely bone necklace. Unlike being powered by the wizard Shazam, he's actually powered by the wizard Merlin of King Arthur legend, and tasked with defeating Morgan Le Fay, which is kinda cool. Fun fact, this story was actually written by Marvel's Stan Lee. Excelsior!
Okay, at number 7, Feral Man of Steel. This isn't really a version of Superman that is fundamentally changed into a monster. He's still a man, and he's still Superman, except he's been raised by a pack of wolves in the jungle. In Superman Annual number 6, a DC Comics Elseworld special tells the story of Kal-El, it's spelled K-L-L this time, a version of Kal-El where his ship actually crashes deep in the Indian jungle. There he's adopted by Mirar. It's just M, R, and R. Basically, she's a she-wolf and she raises Superman as one of her own. But of course, this leaves this version of Superman as a silent type. A wolf man who is on the verge of being entirely feral. However, deep down, the good values of the Superman we all know are demonstrated when he actually spares the life of an adventurer who kills his wolf mother and one of her cubs. Basically, feral Superman is integrated into human civilization and given the name of Clark, continuing on as a version of Superman closer to the one we're used to.
Number 6. Kingdom Come Shazam. In an alternate possible future, metahumans or superheroes are now hated. Because of this, Billy Batson hasn't become Shazam in years, and is now full grown, looking a lot like his alter ego, minus the cool costume and cape and powers and stuff. He was eventually brainwashed by Lex Luthor into believing that metahumans and even the Captain Marvel inside him are all monsters. In time, Bruce Wayne tries to convince Billy otherwise, which eventually forces him to turn into Shazam once more, breaking open the metahuman prison and starting a massive war that puts the whole world at risk. After a nuclear bomb was dropped, threatening to kill thousands, Superman convinced Billy to help, and Shazam outraced Superman to the bomb, using his lightning to destroy it, sacrificing himself to save both humans and metahumans, ending the hatred against superheroes once and for all. Number 5, Injustice League. Okay, so we have the Crime Syndicate of America, but there was also a team of villains put together to fight that team of villains. So, sort of technically making these villains heroes, but also not really because they're still villains. Right? The important information here is that the Injustice League, at least the one I'm referring to, was formed to combat the Crime Syndicate of America from Earth 3. The team's villainous members included Bizarro, Black Manta, Black Adam, Catwoman, Deathstroke, Sinestro or Parallax, Captain Cold, and they were formed and led by Lex Luthor. The team first appeared in Forever Evil number 3 in January of 2014 when the Crime Syndicate of America invaded the Prime Earth universe and tried, and very nearly did, take over the world. Number 4. The Shazam Who Laughs. After the Batman Who Laughs infected Shazam/Billy with a dark metal virus, turning him into a Joker-like version of himself, he is tasked with infecting Superman with the same Joker dark metal virus. Shazam goes to the Batcave and waits for Superman to show up so he can attack. Joker Shazam is easily a match for Superman and Batman one-on-one, but with the two teaming up, he is a little overwhelmed and retreats, which is odd because going by King Shazam, he takes on the Titan Atlas trying to test his new abilities and even defeats multiple gods. When he is in a fight with Ares, he even defeats and infects Lady Shazam. So doesn't really check that Batman and Superman give him that much trouble, but whatever. Luckily, he is cured thanks to Lex Luthor cutting off the source of the dark metal. This guy was nuts and showed no signs of stopping, and that smile? It's just creepy, man. Whoa, slow it down there, friend. I see you're enjoying this video. Well, I hope you are. And if you are, that means you're gonna give it a like. Right? In all seriousness, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for giving us so much support. Okay, on to the top 3.
At number 3, we have Super Demon, or Etrigan. This demonic version of the Man of Steel is known as one of the many Supermen of the Dark Multiverse. His origin begins when he's rocketed to an Earth of eternal twilight from a dark planet called Camelot. Luckily, this thing still fights against evil despite his monstrous appearance. At one point, he faces off against Vampire Ultraman, who I previously mentioned on the list, and he's eventually targeted by Prophecy, who wants to steal Etrigan's powers from him. But he's able to escape with the help of Justice Incarnate and goes off to try and free the other Supermen in the Dark Multiverse. This guy has basically every power that Superman has except augmented just a little bit, and often calling on fire as the element of choice. He's got fire breath, hellfire vision, and when he recites a magical verse, is able to unleash what is only described as a burst of hellfire upon his enemies.
Number 2. Lord Marvel. When the wizard Shazam dies, Billy Batson takes on the role of Wizard of Shazam, becoming the caretaker of the Rock of Eternity. He looks very similar, but way cooler with all the red of his costume becoming white and giving him long white hair. In taking his place, this makes Billy equal in power to the Wizard of Shazam, meaning he can drain gods of their power and basically cannot die. The wizard was even able to stalemate with the Spectre, who is the embodiment of God's vengeance. I think this is easily the strongest version of the character, but if we don't see that power being used, it's kinda hard to say. Number 1. God of Gods Shazam. During the Darkseid War event, after Darkseid is defeated, the pantheon of gods who give Shazam his powers is revamped. He gains new godfathers. But these guys are all really doubtful of Billy being able to harness their power effectively. But when presented with a new foe, Billy proves them all wrong. This new Shazam is able to defeat Yuga Khan, who is the father of Darkseid. While most of his powers are the same, he gains boldness, the ability to manipulate the powers of the Source, and the ability to manipulate the fires of Hrongmir. He also gains the power of the new Wizard of Shazam and Yuga Khan himself, who it is revealed is one of the new gods. All this matched with the creativity and ingenuity of being human.
Number 10. Gatta. Gatta is a famous pop star whose name is really Sheila Romero. Long after the Batman we know, Bruce Wayne, has died, there is a new Batman on the streets of Gotham. This Batman, unfortunately for Gatta, is hogging all the media and press coverage. Taking this unintended slight quite personally, Gatta sets out to get revenge on Batman, becoming the new Catwoman. In the end, however, she does fall into the standard trap of many other alternate and main continuity versions of the character, falling in love with Batman while trying to beat him. So although she starts out as a more evil, villainous type, by the end of the story, she's on the side of good, alongside her once enemy, Batman. Number 9. Batman Returns. In the Tim Burton universe turned Joel Schumacher universe that all started with the Batman 1989 film, we get introduced to the film's very own Selina Kyle. This version of the character is portrayed by Michelle Pfeiffer, who seemingly rises from the dead, surviving a very deadly fall from a high-rise office building window. This version of Catwoman is hell-bent on getting revenge on her old boss, Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken, who tried to kill her after she learned of his villainous his plans to steal Gotham's power. Selina ends up dating Bruce, not knowing that he is Batman to start. There are later indications in following films and television series that followed this that those two actually end up together and have a daughter named Helena, implying that this version of Catwoman inevitably does change her criminal ways, reforming and ending up partnered with Bruce permanently. However, in the film Batman Returns itself, Catwoman is really only known for being a villain, even if you do perhaps understand her motives and feel that she might be justified in her actions. At least a little bit justified, I think. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more Catwoman lists, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. I love talking about Catwoman, so I'd love to do more Catwoman lists. I don't know how many evil alternate versions of her are left though. This was hard to find these ones. Really had to think about it. Number 8. Earth -22. While we don't know much about this version of Catwoman, we do know that she was one of the victims that was killed by the Joker during his final hurrah after he had learned that he was dying. At least the Joker of Earth -22, which is part of the Dark Multiverse. Catwoman in this reality was both an ally and an enemy of Batman, and Joker went on a rampage killing all of Batman's rogues, which was part of what pushed Bruce to the breaking point and caused Batman to snap Joker's neck in a blind moment of rage. This version of Catwoman, while likely a criminal, also had a tragic fate that played a role in helping to create one of the most evil versions of Batman ever, the Batman who laughs.
And at 7, Goliath. Goliath is the Amalgam Universe version of Oliver Queen and Goliath. While not really an archer, Goliath does have the Marvel Universe's Goliath powers, including the ability to grow and shrink. What makes him part Oliver Queen is his relationship to Canary, which parallels to Goliath and Mockingbird's relationship in the Marvel Universe. First introduced in JLX #1 in 1996, I'm sure you can see why Goliath would be a powerful version of Green Arrow. Actually, while learning about this character, I decided to move him up quite a bit, because being able to grow or shrink at will instead of needing to wear a suit like Ant-Man is certainly a power that is scary to deal with, especially with the basic invulnerability that he has thanks to Goliath. The only thing that really makes him Oliver Queen though is his name and his relationship to Canary, so that's why he's higher up on the list. And at 6, Roy Harper. Now, while Roy Harper may be younger and more naive than Oliver Queen, he does become quite the respectable superhero in his own right, and has gotten through some serious issues, including multiple substance abuse issues, which is inspirational to say the least. While also being an expert archer, Roy is an excellent acrobat and has been shown as an expert mechanic and engineer, designing and building his own trick arrows as well as trick arrows for Oliver, not to mention additional weapons, robots, and defense systems. He's also been shown as quite the expert hacker, and was able to jailbreak his phone and give it voice recognition. Roy Harper invented Siri, guys. Aside from that, the Arrowverse version of Roy was also given a dose of Mirakuru and survived, turning him into a living weapon much like Slade Wilson. While the Mirakuru was in his system, Roy was able to punch through a shipping container that was bullet and explosion proof, not to mention the healing factor he gained, and the ability to punch through brick without, ironically, breaking a sweat. Although this came with its own set of issues, including anger management problems, which isn't good when your mentor has just sworn off killing. Not to mention the one time Roy in the comics had a Black Lantern ring in the Blackest Night storyline. Halfway through, and at number 5, Flashpoint. Flashpoint Oliver is an interesting case here, because while he is on the side of good, he's more on the side of profit. Leading a band of ex-military operatives he calls the Green Arrows, Oliver runs a business where he steals advanced gadgets and weapons from villains and refurbishes them for military use, which honestly makes him pretty damn powerful. If he can not only acquire these weapons, but also if he used them, he could be considered one of the most powerful non-superpowered individuals in the Flashpoint timeline. But I also like to consider the fact that just because Barry's mom didn't die, Oliver isn't as much of a do-gooder as he is in the main timeline, or that just because Barry's mom didn't die, Bruce Wayne is the one who dies in the alley. It's incredible to me, honestly. This version of Green Arrow was introduced in Flashpoint Green Arrow Industries #1 in 2011, and this one is definitely on my read list. I'm probably gonna pull it up when I get home because this is really cool, even if it is slightly concerning. And at 4, Connor Hawke. Connor Hawke is the son of Green Arrow and Sandra Hawke, and takes over the Green Arrow mantle after his father's death. When introduced in Green Arrow Volume 2 #0 in 1994, he appeared to just be a huge fan of the Green Arrow, but it was later revealed that, unbeknownst to Oliver, Connor was in fact his son. It feels fitting that it's my name now, honestly. And while he may share the same skills as his father, although less evolved, Connor does end up gaining a couple powers over his father, one of them being a healing factor, granted to him due to genetic mutations from Dr. Savannah, this giving him also a higher higher resistance to pain. This also allows him to stay at his prime with ease, much like Logan, and thanks to Connor's Zen training, he was able to develop a form of clairvoyance. This is the ability that gave him a vision of his father still alive, despite the world thinking that he was dead. See, he has a reason to be on this list other than us just sharing names, okay?
Number 3. Maggie Kyle. Maggie Kyle is known for being Catwoman's sister. In the main continuity, she was tormented by Black Mask to the point that she basically lost her mind and had kind of a psychotic break. Inevitably, what happened was she was made to consume pieces of her husband after she watched him being ever so slowly killed by Black Mask. Yikes. In the reality referred to as Earth Whatever, it was Selina who was Black Mask's victim, and Maggie was the one who avenged her as Catwoman. Maggie was also very specific with the kind of revenge that she wanted and got when it came to Black Mask, killing him slowly, tormenting him as he had her sister in this reality, Selina. Maggie also seemed to relish what she had done, smiling gleefully about it. Part of what makes this version of Catwoman, Maggie's Catwoman, so evil here is what she did to Black Mask. The manner of it specifically, and of course her reaction to that act. She seems like really creepily happy about it. Number 2. Female Fury Catwoman. While Holly Robinson as Catwoman wasn't necessarily evil, like Holly Robinson herself isn't very evil, there was a period during her time as Catwoman where she was really evil. This wasn't necessarily her fault, as she had basically been captured and brainwashed by Darkseid into becoming one of his female Furies. This all went down during Final Crisis, when Darkseid had become the master of the anti-life equation and used it to basically enslave Earth, bending its inhabitants to his will, Holly Robinson's Catwoman included. And if you're wondering why Holly became Catwoman in the first place, it actually all started because Selina Kyle learned that she was pregnant and she was planning on retiring and kind of disappearing for the sake of her future baby. Of course, that didn't all go according to plan, because obviously Selina is still in the comics and is Catwoman, so yes. And she doesn't like just have a baby strapped to her, or like a kid running around her ankles with her while she fights. It'd be hard to fight if you had to like bring your kid to work with you. You probably just shouldn't be a superhero if you have to do that. You should call someone and get a babysitter. Number 1. Raina Creel and her copycat Catwoman army. In the main continuity, Raina Creel was actually an impersonator of Catwoman, or rather, she created a whole team of people to impersonate Catwoman, and she was the one that was in charge of it. And this criminal gang that she created was exclusively made up of copycats who all wore Catwoman's older suit design. Raina was introduced after Batman and Catwoman's wedding was called off, and Catwoman went off to do some of her own things outside of the Bats and Gotham Shadows, taking up residence in Villa Hermosa in California during the start of her own 2018 solo series. Catwoman here faced off against a whole massive group of other Catwomen who are all seemingly hired by Raina Creel to carry out villainous and illegal deeds on her behalf. I just think this is such like a cool idea for a story, and also there's some really good covers from that story. Some really great covers in there.
We're moving on to number 10 with Talon from Earth 3. Now, unless you guys don't know, Earth 3 is the home to an evil Justice League known as the Crime Syndicate of America. On this world, Batman is actually Owlman, and he is also Thomas Wayne Jr., not Bruce Wayne. Now, he takes on Dick Grayson just like his regular Earth counterpart, only this Richard Grayson takes on the much more sinister name of Talon. But Talon began a relationship with Duella Dent, who happened to be the daughter of the heroic Jokester on Earth 3. Yes, that is a good guy version of the Joker. He and Duella came to New Earth and joined the Teen Titans during the year after the Infinite Crisis, and together they actually stood against Black Adam during World War III. Number 9. The third Batman on New 52 Earth 2. The Earth 2 introduced in the New 52 is different from the original Earth 2 where the Golden Age characters reside. Instead, this Earth 2 sees Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman pass away in the first invasion of Earth by Steppenwolf and the forces of Apocalypse, who took over the world. Dick in this reality was married to Barbara Gordon, and they even shared a child together before she also passed away. Dick Grayson ended up training with Ted Grant and became this future's third Batman after Thomas Wayne took the mantle alongside his son, who acted as his Robin. He was a much more aggressive and darker version of Dick Grayson, which really worked well when he became the Dark Knight. Hey y'all! If If you enjoying this video so far, be sure to whack that like button. It's all you gotta do to let us know we are doing a good job. Thanks so much, nerds. On to number 8, Injustice. Dick Grayson in the Injustice universe was a superhero and sidekick to Batman, just like the original. But Grayson still acted as Batman's original Robin, still led the Titans, and still struck out on his own as Nightwing. He was succeeded by Jason Todd, Tim Drake, and eventually Damian Wayne as Robin, but he formed a bond with Damian, and he is even seen as Damian's mentor. However, after Damian sides with Superman in Injustice, he accidentally causes the death of Nightwing when he throws his weapon at his head, causing Nightwing to stumble, fall, and land on a rock that breaks his neck. It's honestly quite the shocking turn of events. Now eventually Dick became the successor to Boston Brand as the second Deadman, giving him the ability to fight again from beyond the grave with the powers of flight, intangibility, invisibility, and possession.
At number 7, we have Bart Allen, aka Kid Flash, FKA Impulse. Hailing from New Earth, this teenage speedster is credited with being able to go faster than the speed of light, and those who understand the laws of physics would know how much of a game changer this is for Bart. It effectively gives him the power to transcend the laws of relativity. His abilities are so impressive, partly due to the fact that Bart originally exists in the 30th century before coming back to the present, and being as young as he is, he hasn't yet shown the full potential of his impressive speed. But once he matures into adulthood, we may end up witnessing the most powerful speedster that the world has ever seen. The only thing that sets him back on this list was his struggle with an illness that caused him to age pretty rapidly. He is able to get it under control, but he ages about 10 years in the time it'd take anyone else to age 2. So we hope this doesn't hinder him any further, because he's one of the most powerful Flashes out there and has tons of potential. At number 6, we have Reverse Flash. First appearing in the Flash 139 as far back as 1963, Eobard Thawne is an evil opposite to the Flash that gets his powers from the negative speed force. But don't let the name confuse you, the negative speed force doesn't negate anything. This inverted variant of the Flash can reach insane speeds and can even move through objects and walls, cause whirlwinds using his body, and most impressively of all, he can travel between dimensions at will. Not only this, but he has electrokinesis, which allows him to charge up electrical energy from his movement and fire blasts of negative speed force lightning at his victims. He can even use this power to steal years of life from his targets and age them to death. And if someone gets the better of him, Reverse Flash even has a healing factor that allows him to mend wounds and even regrow limbs. At number 5 is Savitar from the Arrowverse. In the DCEU, Savitar is a futuristic version of Barry Allen who is jaded by a failure that turns his family and friends against him. So what does one do when they're cast out of society? Right, they decide to become a god. But joking aside, he does get his speeds to a point where he easily surpasses the abilities of his prime self and even starts to notice his body ripping apart due to such high speeds. This is why we see him in this insane armor. He designs this armor to keep himself safe at his unimaginable speeds. He then goes back in time and across dimensions to spread awareness of his godlike status before going back to modern day Prime Earth and facing himself as this newly improved yet fully evil variant. At number 4 is Black Flash. Black Flash is a manifestation of death that is fast enough to chase down any speedster and take them out for good. He can move faster than the speed of light and is immortal, putting him very high on the list. It's unclear why Black Flash is always trying to kill speedsters like Barry Allen and Wally West, but it's suggested that these speedsters are so fast that they can outrun time and therefore death. Unless, of course, death were to somehow, send a conduit after them that also uses the Speed Force, which is what the Black Flash essentially is. This variant first appears in the Flash Volume 2, issue 138 in 1998 and has been spotted in moments right before the deaths of Barry Allen and Johnny Quick. He has also chased after Wally West, but Wally was able to defeat this variant by running all the way to the end of time, destroying Black Flash, because when there's no time, death has no meaning. But to think that these are the lengths Wally has to go to get rid of Black Flash just shows how insanely powerful this variant is.
Number 3, Superman. Some of you may not know, but the original Nightwing was actually a hero of Krypton. It's where the name originated, and Superman telling this story to a young Dick Grayson is what inspired him to take on the name Nightwing. But did you know Superman himself took the name? And even before Dick Grayson did it, Yes, Superman Kal-El has been Nightwing twice in fact. In pre-Crisis, he was the first ever to be called Nightwing in 1963. Now, at this time he actually had no powers and he took on the name, while Jimmy Olsen took on the counterpart to this, the first Flamebird. The second time, Superman donned the Nightwing identity on a reformed Krypton in the post-Crisis world alongside Lois Lane as Flamebird. These two heroes were both Kryptonian legends, and Superman wasn't the only Krypton native to take on the role over the years either. Number 2. Joker. On Earth 31, this version of Dick Grayson never actually became Nightwing. In fact, working under the much more strict, mean, and militaristic Bruce Wayne, Dick was even fired from being Robin for incompetence, presumably caused by not getting past the death of his parents. Years later, and this version of Grayson goes a little insane. He goes through an experimental procedure that makes him essentially immortal through cellular regeneration powers, with the side effect of him being driven absolutely bonkers. With his abilities, he couldn't be killed by almost anything. He was attacked with acid, thermite, and C4, and even had his head taken off with no success. He became the second Joker after the original one and took out several retired superheroes, including the Creeper and the Guardian. After attempting to do the same to Catgirl, Batman finally took him down by throwing him into lava and extinguishing all of his cells simultaneously at once. May not be the most beloved Frank Miller story, but it's certainly, an interesting version of Joker. And in at number 1, finally, is Dr. Fate from Flashpoint. In Flashpoint, Dick Grayson was 1/3 of the family acrobatics team called the Flying Graysons that toured with Halley's circus. While touring in Poland, the circus was actually attacked by Amazon soldiers looking to steal Kent Nelson's helmet of fate, the most powerful magical artifact in the world, according to Black Alice. In their escape, Nelson was killed, but Grayson and a few survivors managed to keep the helmet in their possession. The rest of Halley's survivors were killed by the Amazons, leaving only Dick Grayson and the helmet on the run with the ghost of Deadman to protect him. He eventually decided to use the helmet of fate against the Amazons by becoming Dr. Fate, which granted him godlike arcane power, increasing his sorcery. It also grants him elemental control, including pyrokinesis, hydrokinesis, geokinesis, aerokinesis, cosmic awareness, and even precognition.
Alright, at number 10 we have the very silly but nonetheless evil Super Enemies. In the 1970s animated TV show Super Friends, there's an episode in 1979 called Universe of Evil, where Superman travels to an alternate universe to meet the evil counterparts to the Super Friends, very creatively named the Super Enemies. And the team is made up of all those bad guys we've all known so well and grown up with. You know, like Aquaman with an eye patch, and tinted red Batman, and oh, who could forget the iconic alien monkey Gleek. What a trailblazing team of supervillains they were. But as much as I roast them, they do actually pose a decent threat to Superman in this storyline, to the point where they team up with the military armed with kryptonite weapons, and even bring in their own version of Superman, giving our Superman a good old run for his money. But luckily, Superman Prime finds something called an antimatter flask, which turns all the super enemies back to being good again. Thank God Aquaman retires that eye patch and is no longer so intensely menacing looking. What a relief.
Number 9. Justice League of Assassins. Unfortunately, this evil Justice League didn't stick around too long. Being first introduced in Superman Volume 4, number 15 in March 2017, the Justice League of Assassins on Earth 14 were a group of augmented, mostly non-superpowered soldiers led by the obviously powerful Superman. The team was made up of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Batman, Harley Quinn, and Green Lantern. With the exception of Superman, their powers relied mainly on weapons and technology, but primarily they used advanced firearms. Ultimately, they were all slaughtered, with this Superman being kidnapped by Prophecy, which is a shame, because this team looked super cool and they seemed to inhabit a pretty dark and grim looking post-apocalypse. Could have been very interesting.
At number 8 we have the Conglomerate. This group is basically a bizarro version of the Justice League created by Booster Gold. The group is formed after Booster's departure from the Justice League International due to a lack of respect from his peers. When Booster first fails to bring together a competent group of heroes to form the first iteration of the Conglomerate, someone named Claire Montgomery comes in to manage the group. With her, she brings along the likes of Deadeye, an alternate Green Arrow, Fiero, a guy with Fire powers: Frostbite, an ice power guy; Elastaman, a stretchy man; Element Man, much like Metamorpho; Scarab, a knockoff of Blue Beetle; and Slipstream, a dollar store Flash. When they engage in a small friendly skirmish with the Justice League International, the fight quickly turns serious, and everyone learns at once that these new members have actually been brought from an antimatter world called Quard, and they're basically just entirely evil. And always had been. Luckily, the JLI take them down, but it's a close one.
Number 7. Captain Thunder. It's kind of confusing because there are so many versions of Shazam who use this name. Basically, Captain Thunder was William Fawcett, a kid who was given powers similar to Captain Marvel. He received his powers when the shaman Miroki gifted William a belt with a thunderbolt symbol that, when rubbed in combo with the magical word thunder, turns him into Captain Thunder. Unfortunately, after fighting the Monster League of Evil, they gave him an evil persona instead of a heroic one. So when Captain Thunder first appeared in Superman 276 in 1974, he was helping robbers instead of fighting them. It's only after Superman urges Thunder to use his wisdom to fix what happened and to make him go back to his own Earth. There was a much cooler version of Captain Thunder in the Flashpoint timeline with a sweet battle tiger, who you'd probably think of when I say Captain Thunder.
Alright, at number 6 we have the Justice Lords. Appearing in the animated series Justice League in the episode titled A Better World, this evil team is led by a radicalized Superman. Radicalized because he witnesses Lex Luthor murder the Flash and threaten nuclear war. So, Superman decides he'd abandon the typical hero's code of conduct and kill the bald tyrant himself. And in this alternate universe, Lex Luthor isn't just some super rich supervillain working away in hiding, he's actually worked his way to becoming the President of the United States. So, after his death, there is a power vacuum to be filled. And who would be better rulers than this evil alternate Justice League? No one. They didn't think so anyway, so they take over and put in place a totalitarian government with the justification being that they are protecting humanity from itself. And they start calling themselves the Justice Lords, which, I mean, you should sort of know you're the bad guys when the word Lord is in your title. Luckily, the real Superman is able to catch on and take them out of power before anything goes too far. At number 5, we've got Bizarro. The first time the world sees Bizarro is in Superboy issue number 68 in October 1958. Bizarro is created when Superman is hit with a duplicate ray, and what is left is a gray-skinned, opposite version of Superman. Originally from Hertre, that's Earth backwards, yes, Bizarro and other subsequent hero opposites are under the impression that good deeds are actually against the law. But in a newer interpretation of Bizarro, he's not much of a threat to Superman, or anyone else for that matter. In the 2017 publication, he's known as sort of a goofy monstrosity that even Clark Kent isn't concerned about. The S on his chest is backwards, he has a little chupacabra as a pet named Colin, and he has horrendous grammar. If you tell him to go right, he'll go lefty ways, and if you ask him to stop, he'll go start. Basically, everyone around him sees him as a big handful and not much more, which is good, because he's still a powerful being from another planet. At number 4, we have the Injustice Syndicate. I know, lots of groups with Syndicate and Injustice in their names. Well, that's because this evil version of the Justice League actually exists as a sort of combination between the Injustice League and the Crime Syndicate, both of which are included in this list respectively. Appearing in Batman the Brave and the Bold, in the episode called Deep Cover for Batman, Batman manages to travel to their evil dimension and infiltrate their operations disguised as Owlman. He sees that this group comprises of an evil version of himself, along with other evil alternate versions of other heroes he knows and works with. While eavesdropping, Batman learns of their plans to, destroy other universes entirely, which, of course, he feels is something he needs to put a stop to. And it can't wait, naturally. So he decides to take all of them on himself, and because he's Batman, and it is his TV show after all, he wins. Those universes can thank him later.
Number 3. Mazaz, Alexander Luthor Sr., Earth 3. On Earth 3, Alexander Luthor is the Crime Syndicate's, which is an evil Justice League's, greatest enemy, and the strongest hero on this Earth. He has the ability to absorb other heroes' powers, and after killing this universe's Will Batson, he is basically the twisted version of Shazam, Mazaz, which is Shazam backwards. Take the powers of Shazam, and then add the abilities of anyone he kills. He's pretty powerful. After he kills the crime syndicate speedster, Johnny Quick, he absorbs his powers, then goes on to knock out Ultraman, this Earth's Superman. He then kills Deathstorm and absorbs his nuclear powers as well. Unfortunately, the magical word Mazaz works with any version of Alexander Luthor. So Prime Earth's Lex Luthor is able to defeat him using the word, turning Mazaz back into Alexander, which is when Lex kills him with a knife.
At number 2, I'm putting the Injustice League from the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us. Most of us already know how this story goes, but in case you don't, this is one of the cooler and more well-written storylines about an evil alternate version of the Justice League. In most cases on this list, these evil groups are created by an alternate reality, which is always fun but pretty simple to come up with. But this storyline shows a radicalized Superman leading the Justice League to the dark side. And like I said, this isn't because he's an evil version of Superman or one that's possessed by some evil force. He's genuinely turned to evil after the Joker tricks him into killing Lois Lane. So to combat this new unexpected evil force, Batman decides to bring in other members from the Justice League from another universe, and the result is some pretty great fighting gameplay. And right as the game was being released, a comic book series of the same name was also being released in tandem, serving as a prequel to the game, where you can derive general story points from the game itself. Most of the backstory I just explained actually comes from the comics. It's cool to see the video game and comic book worlds working in tandem, and they make a pretty cool new storyline that I figure has to be ranked pretty high on this list.
Number 1. The Crime Syndicate of America. The Crime Syndicate of America hails from the strength-obsessed Earth 3, and is a twisted, evil version of many characters who make up the main universe Justice League of America. Its members include Ultraman in place of Superman, Thomas Wayne Jr. aka Owlman, and Alfred Pennyworth as the Outsider, Superwoman, who was Lois Lane at one point and Donna Troy at another, the cowardly Harold Jordan and vengeful John Stewart, who are both Power Ring, which are evil Green Lanterns, at different times, John Allen and John Chambers separately also as Johnny Quick, Atomica, Sea King, Deathstorm, Grid, and John Johns. They come into contact with the main universe many times, and they almost always spell out bad news, as you'd expect from the antithesis to the Justice League of America.
Number 10. Tris Plover. Tris comes from a pretty dark future where all of humanity, it turns out, is living on a spaceship, destined to find a new home somewhere out in the cosmos to settle. The space vessel she lives on is known as Gotham, and she works as a farmer on the giant vessel. However, she ends up getting pursued by the authorities and decides to join the vigilante Batman. He tells her of the fact that there was a malfunction and their ship is actually now off course. Tris joins him as his Robin, and together the two of them manage to correct the ship's computer, putting them back on a proper course. Think WALL-E kind of, but if it were Batman and Robin teaming up to fix things instead of WALL-E and a reluctant Eve. Unfortunately, despite being a kind of cool apocalyptic future Robin, Tris still turned herself into the authorities in the end and was turned into fertilizer, after she realized that it would take over 300 years for the ship to arrive at their now correctly programmed destination. Yeah, that's gotta be a pretty depressing revelation. Number 9. Earth 2 Robin. The original Earth 2 Robin was an alternate version of Dick Grayson, who never became Nightwing but instead continued on with the mantle Robin well into his adulthood. He fought crime alongside the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, Helena Wayne, also known as the vigilante Huntress. Being that Earth 2 Robin was from the Golden Age, he's got a lot of weird knowledge and skills because, well, Golden Age comics, including medicinal and surgical skills. Thanks, Batman. He also was technically the original Robin, despite now being considered an alternate due to a reorganization of the continuity following Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then again during Infinite Crisis, and then again following Flashpoint. Wow, that's a lot of resets. Though this version of Robin wouldn't be around to see all those resets, as despite his long list of skills, he died attempting to protect the newly formed Earth during the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. So he only lives on at this point in our hearts and in our old mags. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more bat lists, I want to give you those bat lists. So be sure to let us know that you like them by clicking that like button, and hey, why not share this list while you're at it? Help us find the people out in the world that also love Robins. Number 8. Robin 89. This alternate version of Robin made his first appearance in issue number 1 of Batman 89, a new limited series that takes place in the Burtonverse. one of my favorite verses. As a nod to the fact that Marlon Wayans was set to play Robin in the Burtonverse before Tim Burton left the Batman films, this version of him is black, which I think is pretty awesome. Initially, Marlon would have played Robin in the sequel, but the team actually decided instead to have him first appear in the third film. You know, the one that never happened, as Joel Schumacher then took over, introducing his own version of Robin in Batman Forever. We haven't seen much of this comic book version of what Marlon Wayans' Robin could have been, but what we did get is to see the mysterious figure who is Robin, likely still named Richard Grayson in this reality, take on Batman near the end of issue number 1, and hold his own against the Dark Knight. And so for that alone, and the fact that I'm really excited for Batman 89, I felt like I should include him. So hopefully you agree with me and you're also excited about Batman 89. Or if you're not excited, hey, let me know in the comments. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, you know what I mean? Number 7. Batman 60 Show. Catwoman in the Batman live-action 1960 show became an even greater, bolder, and more deadly villain as time went on throughout the course of the series. Sure, she also happened to have a romantic spark with Batman, but that didn't as often get in the way of her dastardly deeds. And even with her becoming more and more of a romantic interest as time went on, when Eartha Kitt stepped in to take the role after Julie Newmar left the show, becoming Catwoman in the 3rd season, she really only served to elevate the villainous side of Selina Kyle even more. I feel like Eartha Kitt also helped to make it fun and sexy for female characters like Catwoman to just be evil, unapologetically evil. Being bad can be fun after all. Number 6. Madam Cat. Madam Cat hails from the Amalgam Universe, which over at DC is given the reality number of 496 and over at Marvel is given the reality number of 9602. In this reality, Selena Luthor was the daughter of Green Skull, aka Lex Luthor, and Lois Lane. She was basically raised to be evil, despite the fact that her mother did try to shield her and protect her from her father's villainy. As a result, Lois was killed by Green Skull, who then raised Selena to be just as vile and trained her in the ranks of Hydra. Despite her villainous past though, Selena does end up betraying her father in the end and seemingly switching sides to the side of good, before perishing in an explosion. At least it seemed like she perished in an explosion. Madam Cat is a combination of DC's Catwoman and Marvel's Madam Hydra. Number 5. Deceased. In the world of Deceased, Selina Kyle becomes infected with the anti-life equation and becomes insanely violent and zombie-like. Although those infected aren't really in control of themselves and simply are compelled to behave the way they do, not specifically having intentions of their own, I think we can still consider them to be pretty evil. I mean, they're basically zombies. Zombies are monsters, and monsters generally fall on the side of evil as opposed to good. Except for good monsters, that is, like zombies who just, want to fall in love, or the lovable monsters of Monsters, Inc. In this reality, Catwoman ends up defeated by Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy after she has succumbed to the anti-life equation virus. Or I guess just the anti-life equation. Just feels weird to not call it a virus because they're basically like zombies, Number 4. Catwoman 2. Catwoman 2 is Catwoman's kind of unofficial predecessor from the Kingdom Come universe. Here, Catwoman herself, Selina Kyle, has retired from the world of vigilantism and thievery to start her own successful cosmetics company and brand. And successful indeed it was. She presumably spends most of her time running the multi-billion-dollar company, and I guess just chilling and spending her money. Catwoman 2, on the other hand, uses Selina's former mantle, but is one of the new heroes to appear on the scene, whose methods are actually looked down upon by the older heroes. She follows the brutal and misguided example of the Man of Tomorrow, the villain, Magog. Number 3. Robin King. Robin King is actually not an alternate version of any of our Robins from the main continuity. Gasp! Instead, Robin King is an alternate version of Bruce Wayne, who was inspired by a Robin's cheerful song at his parents' funeral in this reality. It was the young Bruce Wayne here who killed his parents due to the fact that he was inherently prone to violence and homicidal tendencies, even from a young age. Because this version of Robin is so murderous and dangerous, he could definitely be one of the most powerful Robins out there. Also, if you thought Jason had at times questionable morals or methods, the Robin King truly just blows him out of the water for that. Number 2. Dick Grayson. I think Dick has proven to be the most capable and powerful version of Robin that we've ever seen. This is likely thanks to a combination of Nightwing's personality and years of experience, considering that he was the very first Robin and has been around since the early days of Batman's vigilante career. He's also super flexible. I think he's also the most flexible Robin, which I know y'all might be thinking that doesn't equal power, but trust me, flexibility is hard and it is very powerful, I think. Do not underestimate someone who's very flexible. Dick even proved himself as a good fit as Bruce's heir when he himself took up the cape and cowl, filling in as Batman after he was presumed dead, but was really just MIA. Nightwing brings to the table not only his skills as a fighter and acrobat, but also his sharp wit as a perceptive and smart detective, as well as his forensic skills, or as I said once, his chemist skills. I called him a chemist once and people were like, that's not a thing. But he does have forensic skills, which is chemistry, so I feel like it still kind of goes hand in hand. I defend it. I would say when it comes to all-around Robin power, Nightwing is one of the most balanced, which generally gives him a leg up in comparison to the other Robins who tend to dominate in a specific area but usually lack somewhat in another. Basically, they're usually really good at like one or two things, but everything else they're fluctuating. And I feel like Nightwing is pretty much like here, like he's just really good at a lot of stuff. Number 1. Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer is probably the most powerful of the Robins that we've seen so far. He's also definitely the most metal. He comes from the Dark Multiverse, more specifically, the Dark Multiverse Dark Knight's Metal series. He actually sort of has powers as well, coming with an electric guitar that also happens to be an axe. He plays it with a kryptonite pick, using its sound to create sonic blasts and even energy constructs. And okay, yeah, so he doesn't necessarily have powers, but he has a powerful weapon, so I'm gonna count it, because it's like magically powerful. Dragon Slayer's Nightwing, aka Richard Grayson, is definitely the most badass of all the Robins here, and despite his very brief appearance, is in theory the most powerful. At least his brief appearance by comparison to some of the other ones. Although Tris Plover was also brief.
At number 10, we have Johnny Quick of Earth 3. In this dimension, the Justice League exists as a legion of criminals called the Crime Syndicate, made up of evil versions of the heroes we're used to seeing in the Justice League. Flash's evil counterpart, Johnny Quick, has powers similar to Barry Allen and is credited with defeating the first iteration of the Doom Patrol alongside his girlfriend and partner in crime Atomica. He also traps the Justice League of Prime Earth in the Firestorm Matrix, which is a pretty impressive demonstration of power on its own. And it may suggest that he is more in tune with his abilities than Prime Earth's Flash, giving him a spot on this list without question. However, he is soon defeated by Captain Cold, who freezes one of his legs and shatters it before breaking his neck. And simply because Johnny Quick loses as badly and as quickly as he wins, he's held back a bit on this list. At number 9, we have Avery Ho from Prime Earth. Avery gains her powers in the Flash Volume 5 when the Speed Force goes out of whack and endows masses of regular people with super speed. Avery is a relatively new hero who has only been around since 2016, but we can be pretty confident that she'll only continue to grow in power and ability as time goes on. Partly through experience with the Speed Force and working alongside Wally West, but mainly because of a distinct ability she has that's unique to this variant in particular, in that she can siphon speed from other people, allowing her to increase her speed on command. So it's not hard to see how even if she's not at her height of power yet, she might soon reach a power level that might surpass even the most powerful variants on this list. At number 8 is Danica Williams from Earth 12. Also known as Beyond Flash, this version of the Flash exists in the 2040s alongside Terry McGinnis, aka Batman Beyond. Danica is known to be one of the most powerful versions of the Flash, having the ability to communicate with past iterations of the Flash like Jay Garrick and Wally West. This helps her develop as a hero and gain enough foresight that she can avoid making some of the tougher mistakes that she would have made had she been all on her own. It also proves to be the case that variants from the future usually have some kind of advantage to their present day counterparts due to experience and futuristic technology. Personally, I just think there's something special about Earth 12 because Batman Beyond is also a really powerful Batman variant and he comes from Earth 12 as well. And Danica Williams rubs shoulders with him quite often, matching his power and intellect most of the time.
Number 7. Batman and Rookie. Well, usually when we talk about Batman variants, we are talking about other realities and otherworld stories. In this case, we're actually looking to the main continuity of Prime Earth in modern comics, instead of away from it. This variant of Batman, instead of hailing from another Earth, is simply a whole other person from the main continuity. We are talking about when Jim Gordon, police commissioner, took up the mantle of Batman. Yeah, that happened. Jim became Batman after Bruce's seeming death following the events of Endgame. A corporation known as Powers International came to Gordon and basically approached him about becoming the new Batman. Initially, he wasn't so sure, but eventually he decided to agree and give it a try. He was given surgical muscle implants and a very tight bat suit that made him look real svelte, and a robotic set of armor which could also operate independent of him, known as Rookie. Number 6. Vampire Batman. I think there are actually a few realities where Batman has been affiliated with vampires. I mean, kind of makes sense. Batman, vampire bats. It's kind of a no-brainer when it comes to superhero and monster mashups. This vampire Batman that we were talking about, though, is probably one of the most famous, hailing from the reality of Earth 43, which appears as the main reality of the story Batman and Dracula: Red Reign and its sequels. Here, Batman willingly becomes a vampire in order to better track down and defeat Dracula. While only part vampire at that time, eventually Batman in this reality would go full vamp after giving into his bloodlust and feeding on the Joker. Dun dun dun! Number 5. Ghostmaker. Ghostmaker for me was originally a character I came in ready to dislike when it was announced in the comics. But then I read more about him, and the more I read the character, the more I really found that I quite like him, actually. In fact, he might actually be one of my favorite new characters. Even if Ghostmaker initially still sounds like a silly name, it still does kind of sound silly to me. It's growing on me, along with the man behind the mask, Ming-Hua Khan. Ghostmaker initially was presented as a challenger to Batman, someone who might even usurp him when it came to being the hero of Gotham. In the end, it was revealed that Ghostmaker and Batman actually had a pretty long history, with Bruce befriending young Ming-Hua when they were both traveling the world, training to become vigilantes. In a way, you could even see Ghostmaker as a better version of Batman. He's often not as attached as Bruce is to people or places, preferring to stay detached and possibly incapable of attachment due to him being a psychopath. In a way, this can make him either weaker or stronger than Batman, depending on your perspective of strength and how best to approach vigilantism. Number 4. Azrael. Azrael is another alternate Batman version or variant who hails from the same reality as Bruce Wayne. Azrael is Jean-Paul Valley, who is asked to take Bruce's place as Batman after his back was broken by Bane during the events of Nightfall. As Batman, Azrael was ruthless and much more violent, believing that to get Gotham in order, this was the way that things would have to be done. Eventually, Bruce returned with a healed back and ended up reclaiming the cape and cowl from Azrael, but at that point, Azrael was actually so powerful that Bruce initially struggled to reclaim his mantle. He would call on both Nightwing and Robin to assist him in recovering the Batman mantle, and eventually would be victorious in defeating Azrael, who honestly, I feel bad for, as both the gain and then the loss of the Batman title really messed Jean-Paul up.
At number 3 is Wally West of Earth 22. Featured in the Kingdom Come storyline from the 90s, Wallace West is an amalgamation of all the former holders of the Flash mantle: Wally West, Barry Allen, and Jay Garrick. He's such a powerful version of the Flash that he is in constant motion, only appearing as a hazy blur most of the time. He then becomes an interdimensional being with a hyper-awareness of the relationship between dimensions and his influence on reality. In this way, he is pretty much a god and is known to have achieved more than any Flash from any other dimension. This could be due to his age as well, because Wallace West is an older iteration of the Flash, but it could also be chalked up to his near omniscience and omnipresence as a Flash variant. He isn't quite immortal like the Black Flash, but his mastery of interdimensional knowledge could be considered a more powerful trait than even immortality. In our number 2 spot is the Red Death. The Barry Allen from Earth 52 is a villainous combination of Batman and the Flash, and is known to be the most powerful version of the Flash in the whole multiverse, but I beg to differ, because I'm putting him at number 2. You'll see who goes ahead of him, and we'll see if you agree with me. First appearing in the Dark Knight's Metal comic book event in 2019, the Red Death is basically what you get when you give Batman super speed, super strength, and durability. This means that this variant can use the extreme intellect of Batman and apply it at extreme speeds, crafting bat gadgets faster than the speed of light and tracking down his enemies effortlessly in a split second. The way this villain is formed is that Batman is jaded by his experiences of loss, getting emotionally exhausted by losing so many sidekicks and deciding that he needs to take matters into his own hands. This dark motivation also adds to the Red Death's power as he takes out his anger on the world with extreme speed and extreme power. At number 1 is Zoom. I'm putting Zoom at number 1. Zoom is a double variant of Flash, which is my way of saying that he's a variant of Reverse Flash, who is himself already a variant, so he's a double variant. But this version of Reverse Flash is even more powerful than the original, having an even more refined control over his time travel abilities. In the case of Zoom, he can speed up and slow down time around him without his frame of reference being affected. This means he can avoid the typical complications that other speedsters face, like intense friction and seeing and hearing at these intense speeds. Zoom's grim backstory also empowers his motivations, having lost both his parents at a young age to his father's violence as a notorious serial killer. Zoom goes right up to number 1 on the list because his grasp on his speed abilities is so impressive that he transcends into a new realm of power and becomes an adept time traveler as a result. At number 10, we have Vampire Ultraman. This is a double alternate of Superman because he's already Ultraman, who's considered to be a dark, evil version of the hero we all know and love, but after Batman turns Ultraman into a vampire, the character just delves that much deeper into the uncanny. As if a Superman alternative gone bad isn't enough to handle on its own, this guy has a thirst for blood and takes every chance he can get to recruit more superpowered beings into his Justice League of Vampires. This is a perfect example of how messy, but also really fun, things can get when the multiverse gets involved. I think it's fair to say that Earth 43 is not a place I'd like to visit anytime soon. Okay, at number 9 we have Parallax Superman. Parallax is an evil entity that lives in the Yellow Lantern's central power battery, and he is described as the living embodiment of fear. Basically, this insect-like creature is something of a parasite that takes over a number of hosts throughout various storylines in the comics. One of those times, he takes over Superman, and the combination of these two beings naturally creates a very evil and powerful monster. And what makes it even crazier is that the origin of Parallax Superman came about by Superman's own will. In defense of a group of helpless schoolchildren, classic, Superman decides to give in to the evil parasite and allow it to steal his essence. The only way Superman is able to yield Parallax from his body is by shedding all his fears and, using Thal Sinestro's ring, capturing and banishing Parallax forever. Phew. At number 8, we've got Vampire Superman from World's Finest, issue number 249. This version of the hero only appears for a short time in this one issue when Batman and Phantom Stranger are out at sea on a ship with a small crew. What appears to be going on is a Vampire Superman trying to turn the crewmates into fellow vampires themselves. So when Batman shines a light on Vampire Superman, sending him inside and into a coma. I don't really get why this happens, but basically Batman then attempts to drive a stake into Superman's heart, as one does if they're trying to kill a vampire. But Phantom Stranger stops him and turns the stake on the crewmates, who he reveals as being the real culprits. And for some strange, complicated reason, Superman then comes to and the crewmates are defeated and turned to coral? I don't know. This story was hard to follow, but for a time there, Superman fell victim to vampirism. And this is a scary moment because besides kryptonite, many people aren't aware that another of his weaknesses is magical enchantment, including vampirism and werewolfism. Is that the right term? Werewolfism?
Number 7, Squadron Sinister. This isn't so much an evil alternate Justice League as this team actually appears in the Marvel universe. But I'm gonna count it because I'm just stubborn like that. The original Squadron Sinister was created as a sort of obvious play on DC Comics Justice League characters Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, and The Flash, with the characters Hyperion, Nighthawk, Dr. Spectrum, and the hilariously named Wizard, respectively. The team was created by the Grand Master after he encountered the Squadron Supreme, and they first appeared in Avengers number 69 when they were pitted against the Avengers in a game between the Grand Master and Kang the Conqueror. They're bad guys who are counterparts to 4 members of the Justice League. I gotta stop justifying my reasons. They're on the list. Argue with me down below if you don't like it.
At number 6, we've got Werewolf Superman. In Superman Volume 1, issue 422, we see a cover that makes us jump for a second, thinking that our beloved Clark Kent has been overtaken by a werewolf curse. But no, this isn't actually Superman turned werewolf. What it is, though, is a werewolf who takes Superman's costume off of him and wears it. He wears it around for a while. So, for a moment, we get a pretty crazy visual of a drooling, feral wolf man wearing the Superman suit. And we're also left with another visual of a totally naked Clark Kent lying defeated on the floor, but that's neither here nor there. What's crazy about this encounter is that this werewolf actually takes out Superman, knocking him down for long enough that he's actually able to steal the costume, forcing Superman to throw on a pretty sweet one-piece tracksuit and fly somewhere that he can properly change back into his Clark clothes. Later, he finds the culprits of the werewolf serum and then takes them all out naturally, without getting bitten himself, luckily.
Number 5. Earth 5 Shazam. Earth 5 is a simpler, kinder world. A world that is more optimistic. A world where the heroes are seen as such with hardly any faults. Basically, this is the golden age of comics. Specifically, Fawcett Comics. See here, Captain Marvel is the main superhero, which gives the world the name Thunderworld. He and his family, Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel, keep the world safe from everything from the Monster Society to aliens. This version of Shazam worked together alongside Superman and Overman to recruit the Supermen of the universe. They worked together, led by Captain Marvel, to defeat Ultraman and weaken Mandrake, who was killed by the Green Lanterns.
At number 4 is the Superman Monster. This is a classic mashup story, basically marrying Superman and Frankenstein into one. A guy named Victor Luthor comes across an alien spacecraft with the remains of a baby boy within it. When he realizes that the child was supposed to have arrived intact, he devises a plan to revive the being using the body parts of dead bodies found in a local graveyard. Using the advanced alien technology from the ship, Luthor creates a revival matrix and brings this monstrous version of Superman to life. But just like the classic story goes, the resulting creature doesn't quite turn out the way that Luthor had planned. He's a little grayer and more decayed than he'd like, so Luthor rejects him, and gets pretty badly injured in the process. The rest of the story is basically more parallels to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, so if you're interested in hearing about the story of Superman and Frankenstein mashed together, go check out the story. It's a one-off, so it probably wouldn't take very long to read.
Number 3. The Joker League. In Emperor Joker #1 of October 2000, the Joker has gained 99.99% of the reality warping powers of the 5th dimensional being, Mr. Mxyzptlk, and he used them to completely warp the world into an insane offshoot of our real world. In this Joker world, he has put together an evil, insane version of the Justice League called the Joker League of Anarchy. The team members include some characters we've seen before, such as Bizarro #1, Enigma, who's the Riddler, Gravedigger Lad, who is actually Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. He has also created completely new characters that are wholly original to this story: Ignition, Bounty, Schism, and Scorched. He even has Lex Luthor as a jester. They are basically just the henchmen of this already pretty much all-powerful version of the Joker. Just another way of keeping him entertained, it seems.
At number 2 is Sand Superman. This entity is neither human or Kryptonian alien, but a mixture of energy from Quarm, sand from Earth, and some of Superman's powers that have been siphoned out of him. This creation is not quite a monster, but it is an uncanny recreation of the hero that honestly kind of creeps me out. Almost as much as a zombie or vampire version of Superman might. It doesn't have any soul inside of it, and for a time is set on draining even more of Superman's powers from him. Although it does come around and start to act more like Superman does, acting as a selfless superhero, fighting crime, and all that. It still poses a threat to Superman, and the rest of the world for that matter, because due to this creature being composed of alternately charged atoms to Superman, and only gains power when Superman loses it, and vice versa, it's known that if Sand Superman comes in contact with real Superman, there would be a devastating explosion powerful enough to destroy the planet. So yeah, Sand Superman, not to be messed with. And kinda creepy, honestly. Okay, we're at number 1, and I have to put Blackest Night Superman here. 2 words, Zombie Superman. This version of Superman comes back from the dead and terrorizes Smallville with the added powers of a Black Lantern. In the comics, he's able to read people's fear and their power levels with what seems like a built-in HUD system. He's just a predator in all senses of the word. But when they face off, Zombie Superman is able to see more human emotions in Superman than he had in the people of Smallville. Fear, love, hope, will, and on top of it all, this zombie Superman uses Superman's own mother against him, putting her life in peril, and even Clark's dog, which is where I personally draw the line. Thank God he and Superboy put an end to this undead nightmare at the end of the series. The pup also gets some blows in, which is a great little touch.
And at 10, New Earth. Now, I'd like to say that technically New Earth is no longer the main continuity, since Prime Earth currently is, so I'm allowing New Earth Oliver to be on this list, okay? My list, my rules. New Earth Oliver is pretty badass, since in the 0 Hour storyline, after being thrust into another timeline where he stares at his own dead body, he gets pulled back and recruited by Batman to help in the fight against his once good friend Hal Jordan, who had recently gone mad thanks to Coast City being destroyed and then being possessed by Parallax. Oliver didn't want to believe it, but after seeing what Hal had become, he knew what he had to do. In the final battle, Oliver straight up shot Parallax in the chest, ending the battle and saving the universe. But Oliver was pretty messed up after this, understandably, because you know, he just killed his best friend. So Ollie returned to where he committed his first murder, because you know, that's great for your mental health, and swore off being a superhero, but obviously this wouldn't stick. Still pretty sick though. And at 9, Archer. Appearing in the animated movie Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, this version of Oliver Queen is the evil version who's a member of the crime syndicate. While he doesn't have much else going for him, being a match for the main Earth Oliver, he does have the moral advantage. You see, when you don't have a moral code, you can basically do anything, and that's what Archer experiences in this movie, even attempting to assassinate President Slade Wilson's daughter during a public speech. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Dressing in red so he can hide all the blood, this guy is willing to kill whoever he has to in order to survive, gain more power, or even just have a bit of fun. And that puts him at an advantage over good Oliver, because he could easily put someone's life in danger as a distraction, and it would work. If you're enjoying this list and want to see more like it, why don't you hit those shiny like and subscribe buttons? It really helps us out and can make a huge difference. Okay, let's keep going. And at 8, Injustice. While the Dictator Superman universe version of Green Arrow dies brutally after accidentally shooting John Kent, the Earth 1 version of Green Arrow ends up being summoned by the Evilverse Batman to take down the crazy Superman. But in this reality, there is a pill that the Joker calls the Happy Pill, at least in the game, that increases their resistance to attacks, luckily making it slightly harder for Superman to kill this version of Oliver Queen. This pill does make him more powerful than his original and Archer counterparts, so that's why he's on this list, especially because everyone on Evil Man Earth is like, oh damn, Oliver Queen is back? How did that happen? I mean, like, it's pretty normal for Oliver, I guess. He's basically at this point one of DC's Jesuses, but still, I'm sure that made at least some people question Superman's true power, but it probably didn't last for long, because if it did, they would get their heads blown off or like heat vision through their skull. Do you think Superman plays golf with human heads? I'd like to think so. 4.
Number 7. Gotham City Garage Nightwing. Nightwing in this reality is known for fixing up bikes and wearing a leather jacket with no shirt underneath. Sounds pretty sweaty to me. He is recruited to help break into Lex Luthor's compound by Catwoman, and the pair of them are also joined by Kara. His skills here don't just include fighting and acrobatics, but also his driving skills, which are pretty impressive. Aside from that, Nightwing also has his tricked out bike, which adds to his power set. In this reality, he is rivals with Jason Todd, who himself gets his butt whooped by Kara. Nightwing in this reality is different in the sense that he is more selfish than his main continuity counterpart, and is willing to leave others behind in order to save himself. Number 6. Damian Wayne. What would an alternate Robin list be without a few of the main continuity Robins, of which we have a plethora of alternates already, as the role has changed hands throughout the years. I'm not going to list all of the Robins here, so if there's one that you're a huge fan of and I don't list them, please don't be offended, but I am going to mention a few that I just think are the most powerful and deserve to be mentioned, with some powerful Robin alternates from other realities and Elseworlds peppered in the mix there. Damian, of course, being one of those main Robins that I would like to talk to you about. Damian Wayne is another Robin who initially didn't have a problem with killing his opponents. This is due to the fact that he was raised among the League of Assassins, in part training with his mother, Talia al Ghul, herself a masterful and accomplished assassin and fighter. Damian has recently left the Robin mantle and his father's side to seemingly find himself in his own new Robin series. Although the series is called Robin, Damian claims to have turned his back on the bad and is looking to find out who he really is outside of his father's shadow, turning to his mother for some guidance this time around, and also looking inside himself, which I think, you know, Damian's still pretty young, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Number 5. Deathlock. Deathlock is the Amalgam Universe version of Jason Todd. He is a combination of DC's Jason Todd, who was once known as Robin, Marvel's Midnight, and Marvel's Deathlock. In the Amalgam Universe, however, his name still remains Jason Todd, just to be clear. Jason was caught in an explosion and recovered by the villainous organization Hydra, who healed him and repaired him by turning him into a cyborg, making him into their agent and Deathlock. But prior to this, Jason was already a skilled fighter, albeit somewhat reckless, taking up the mantle of Moonwing when he worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. after Dick had left the mantle and S.H.I.E.L.D. to go attend university. However, Jason would later be dismissed from S.H.I.E.L.D. after making a grievous mistake while on duty, a mistake that even as Deathlok he still blamed his superiors for, confronting both Dick Grayson and S.H.I.E.L.D. director Bruce Wayne during a fight later on. Number 4. Jason Todd. When it comes to Jason Todd, he is powerful because he doesn't often hold back and he doesn't really give up. While he may have trauma that sometimes can leave him vulnerable, his redefinition of the Bat Family moral code means that he's a touch more ruthless than your standard Robin. Okay, maybe a lot more ruthless. At least more ruthless after he left the mantle of Robin and became Red Hood. However, even during his time as Robin, Jason was a determined young man who, even when beaten, would never back down or give up in a fight. Currently, however, Jason is also a masterful sword fighter and weapons expert who is not afraid to kill those who get in his way, which is kind of what gives him an edge, I think, in comparison to some of the other Robins.
Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Blackest Night. The Black Lantern Corps is a group of various dead superheroes and villains alike who are raised by Nekron and each given a Black Lantern ring. This ring grants them power over death, and these rings are powered by the Anti-Monitor, as he is present within the Black Lantern power battery. Those raised by the Black Lantern ring are in essence resurrected to where they were before, but with their minds warped to serve Nekron's purpose. Those with the ring have various powers, including a healing factor, aura recognition which allows them to see powerful emotions, energy spectrum assimilation which lets them extract the hearts of individuals they've slain and use their last feelings to charge the central battery and their ring by 0.01%, and they, much like zombies, can infect others by biting them. A bite from a Black Lantern will slowly kill the one bitten and would turn them into a Black Lantern upon death. Basically zombies with superpowers, so definitely not something to be laughing at. Penultimately, in at number 2, the Spectre. While I really wanted to put this at number 1, I knew at least a few of you would be mad at me for it, so here we are at number 2. The Arrowverse crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths had been in the process of being set up for a while, with the previous Elseworlds crossover basically just being one big commercial for it, and the seasons of the shows leading up to it mostly revolved around what would happen. One of these main issues was Oliver Queen's death, which shockingly was carried out in the first part of the crossover. After bringing Oliver Queen back to life with a Lazarus Pit on Earth 19, John Diggle, his daughter from the future Mia, and Constantine all travel to Purgatory to retrieve his soul. But when he was about to go back with them, Jim Corrigan arrives with a way for Oliver to save everyone. This turns Oliver into the Spectre, basically the most powerful being in the multiverse, or one of them at least, giving him the powers of God, allowing Oliver to reboot the universe with the help of the Paragons, and stopping the Anti-Monitor from securing the death of all Earths. He also ended up corrupting the Speed Force by empowering Barry, which resulted in the Speed Force dying for a time. This really should be number 1, but whatever. Finally, in at number 1, Brightest Day. After Hal Jordan absorbed the entity of life, he spread its power over multiple superheroes, some of who were Black Lanterns at the time. This included the Green Arrow, which fully resurrected him. And a white power ring is certainly the most powerful ring of them all. One ring to rule them all. Being able to generate and use any color from the spectrum, since white light is all the other colors combined. This allows White Lanterns to in essence have near godlike abilities with all the colors. White energy blasts, force field generation, energy constructs, energy twins, ring duplication, mind alteration, wormhole generation, time travel, invisibility, resurrection, you name it and the White Lanterns can do it. The full extent of the white power ring is unknown, so honestly, this is the only thing I saw fit to beat the Spectre if anything. I mean, the white power ring may not be able to reboot the universe, but hey, we don't know if it could. It can resurrect people, so why not resurrect planets, right? I mean, probably. Hopefully that's not too big of a leap in logic.